Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining AquaSphere. AquaSphere is a 2 to 4 player game that was released in 2014. It's designed by Stefan Feld and published by Tasty Minstrel Games. This is one of my favourite Stefan Feld games. Who is Stefan Feld, I hear you asking? Stefan Feld is a horrendously prolific designer who's responsible for games such as Trajan, Amerigo, Notre Dame. My experience with his games is there's usually a Moncola or a rondelle somewhere near the game. So Moncola is that thing where you're picking up beads or something and putting them in different pots, and when you get to the last pot you would action that. So he's got that mechanism going on quite a lot. Or he uses a rondelle, which is moving a token around a circular section or area of your board, and you're going to do whatever's that next one, or depending how far you move forward. Okay, so that's basically an action selection idea. So anyway, this game doesn't really have that. It kind of looks like it should, or looks like it might almost. The main board is a circle and you can move your guy around it, but you can move any direction. So that doesn't really count as the as a rondelle. There's a programming selection, I guess is what you'd call it, where you're going to move your guys through a pattern of things. Once again, doesn't really count. Yes, you're moving forward and that's choosing those actions, but doesn't really count. So it doesn't have those calling cards of the Stefan Feld games from, or at least my experience of the Stefan Feld games. I may be off base on that, and please, if you've played more Stefan Feld than I have, which is very likely, I've only played a handful of them, comment below and please correct me on that, please. This one is a action selection. I want to say it's a worker placement game. Board Game Geek doesn't call it worker placement, but it kind of is. Your action selection, your area controlling as well. The basis of this game is that you are in this underwater laboratory. So there's this one round, imagine there's this glass dome over it, you're underwater. And there's a whole bunch of little spaces within that area, and you can move between them. To move between them will cost you time. On top of that, so that's where you've got one scientist in that space. You have one scientist over here in this other circle, other dome area that's not connected to that, who is programming robots, or bots they call them. On your own board, when you program a bot here, you move the bot up to the icon that matches what you've just programmed. That's one action. When you've got a bot on a program spot, you can move your scientist to any of the spaces around that major board and use that program bot in that area to gain the benefits that come with that area. So that's kind of the manipulation. You have 3 choices. One of those choices is to pass. So on your turn, you'll actually have 2 choices, or finish. You choose to program by moving the guy over here and moving your bot up, or you choose to action the programmed bot. Now, when we get to the end of the choices, because there's only 3 things that you can choose over with this scientist, there's only 3 programs that you can actually program into your bots. When you get to the end of that, that's the end of a round. At the end of a round, there's a scoring spot. So, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you're going to score on. The thing you've got to watch out for is these little octopus kind of things. I think they're called octobots or something like that, that sit in each of the different areas. If you've got control of one of those areas, which means you were the last person to action that area, if there's these octopus things in that area, you're going to lose points. Now, if there's a lot of them, you're going to lose a heap of points. If there's 1, in all the spots you control, there's 1, you're only losing 1 point. If there's 2, you're losing 3 points. If there's 3, you're losing 9 points or something like that. It gets huge points if you ignore that. And I didn't realize that, or I ignored it on the first game to see what happened. And I lost points all over the place. Now, fortunately, within the scoring track, there's little laser beams that kind of come across the board at various points. To get past the laser beam, it's going to cost you a crystal. So you've got to collect crystals. They're worth points for collecting them, but you've got to collect them because you're going to use them to get across these points. But once you cross one of the points, you can't go backwards past that. So if you lose a heap of points from up here, you stop at that laser line. You don't drop back. Each round has a different number of stuff that's put out into the board, and that's marked. You can see what's coming up all the time. So there's a card here telling you what these actions are going to be, in what order they're going to be, for the next turn. And there's a card in the middle that tells you where extra octobots and crystals and all that type of stuff are going to end up coming into the next round. On top of that, you get points for releasing bots from your own board. So each one you release gives you a potential more points. But in order to see those more points, you've got to release submarines, which is one of the actions, into the dome. And all of this stuff is going on. There's so much to think about, but you're only going to do 3 things on each turn. So, it's such a thinky game, but at the same time, not. It's only 4 rounds, and you'll see how it all kind of adds up, and everything gets harder or easier depending on what you've been doing and what the other players have been doing as well. You get points for having majority of the area control. So there's 6 of the little domes, little spaces that you can move through. If you have majority of those, you're going to get 6 points. If you're the second majority, you're going to get 3 points. If you're less than that, you're going to get no points. And these all happen at the end of every round. So it's going to happen 4 times until you get to the end. And when you get to the end, there's more scoring again. So, it's a point salad, which is, once again, a lot like most of the Stefan Feld games. They get point salad. You can never tell who's winning until you actually get to the end. Even though there's points kind of being added all the time, there's other stuff that's going on behind the scenes where you can't just quite go, oh, that person's so far ahead, they've won. They haven't necessarily won. The one thing to watch out with this game is there's a little bit of iconography. It's not difficult iconography by any stretch of the imagination, but because there's so much stuff on the table, quite often the cards, of course that's one of the actions, you can pick up cards to come into your tableau, so there are cards that you can action all the time. But cards and things like that, the iconography is a little bit tough to make out and work out what it's talking about at a distance. There's a list on the back of the game manual, the rules instruction book, that will tell you what those icons mean, which is great, but unless you've played the game quite a few times, it's really hard to pick up exactly what it is at a glance. And now that's the glance stuff. With multiple players, I'm sure you get on top of that, but because the game board is so busy, it's quite often difficult to see far enough to actually make out what those are without having to kind of go, oh, what's that, and kind of give away what you're thinking about doing. I really, really love this game. It's such a fabulous, meaty game, and it was a surprise. I was expecting one thing out of this game, and I got something totally different. I really loved what the different game was. So I'm going to leave that there. Please go on and watch my Gamesplay and Gamesplains so you can get a good feel for this game and make up your own mind about it. If you've got any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining, and until next time, enjoy gaming.